All right, and so we are going to do this in the same way as the previous mentorship group, where there are what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of these to go through. And ideally, we're not going to go through all of these with a fine-tooth comb. That's not the purpose of these assignments. The assignments are designed to get you guys out of your comfort zone. They're designed to have you write about things you wouldn't normally write about, to kind of learn how you write under a deadline. And on top of that, show you some of the biggest things you can improve upon and some of the biggest things you do right with every single one of your assignments. That's the purpose of these things. The purpose is not to take them and go out and sell something with them, because that would require multiple iterations. It would require going through every single thing, confirming target market research, and we don't have the time or inclination to do that because there's no incentive for us to do that on these particular pieces. So, with that said, when we go through these, I'm going to be giving essentially the top 3 things you can improve upon and the top 3 things that I would sustain, along with any sort of insights that come with it. It's very freeform. It's definitely a hot seat. It's not a very specific critique of your writing. So, without further ado, let's start with Jerome's. And first things first with this one, it is way too short. Written as if it's an email rather than an actual sales letter. It falls well below the 2,000 word requirement. So that requirement was failed. The reason that I had you write the 2,000 words is because, as many of you, both on here live and watching the recording, realize 2,000 words is a lot for a lot of you guys. A lot of you have never written something 2,000 words or longer, especially a sales message. So for a lot of you, you struggled with getting that content out, getting out of your own way, all that kind of stuff. So the 2,000 words is a very specific requirement, because if you, oh gosh, my bad guys. All right, can everybody see my screen? Thanks, Giles. Give me a check, thumbs up, sound and screen. All right, Daryl can see it, Giles can see it, everybody else can see it. All right. All right, good, cool. So this is what we're looking at with this email. Massively too short, and it falls below the 2,000 word requirement, which shows me that you either didn't read the assignment correctly or chose to make it shorter. A lot of you guys had trouble getting to the 2,000 word mark, and you told me that, but this one, there was no context around it. So Jerome, that's the first thing. When you do work for clients and you do copy for clients, I highly recommend not charging based on word count or hourly rate. However, depending on the type of the sales message that you're writing, which in this case would be a sales letter like everybody else wrote, a sales letter is almost never this short. The only sales letter I can think of that was this short was the one-page sales letter for that Gary Halbert made for his why am I blanking on it right now? The coat of arms sales letter, or the coat of arms lift letter, and that took him 18 months to perfect because it was one page and it was shorter copy. So 2,000 words was the requirement. I'm going to stop harping on that. First things, I remember getting this email from you, Jerome, and thinking it was spam. That's a bad thing when I look at the headline. Please find and close $10,000 to the success of your next movie. Immediately, to me, sounds like spam. It's not an email I would open. It's probably an email I would mark as something that would go into my junk folder. The reason being, in the context especially of receiving an email like this, I receive obviously dozens, if not hundreds of emails every single day across multiple email accounts. And this, to me, not only doesn't interest me or intrigue me, but it sounds exactly like something that would show up in my junk folder. So this headline does not accomplish any of the goals that you want from a headline. It doesn't intrigue me, it doesn't capture my attention, and it doesn't capture my interest. So what I would do instead than a full bold headline with something to the extent of like promising me money would be a headline, if you're doing some sort of email towards this, would be focused on getting my interest enough to click and read the email. That's what the headline's job is. So in this case, if you're going to use the same vein, which is I'm going to give you money for the success of your next movie, then you can do it as a question. You can say, would you like to find out how so-and-so got $10,000 in funding for his movie? Question mark. That sounds a little bit more natural. Sounds promotional, but a little bit more natural, and it could be intriguing to the right person, which would be an independent filmmaker looking for funding. And that would be a better way to go about things than all capital letters, please find enclosed $10,000 to the success of your next movie. It's just not the right way to go about things. Next, I'm going to zoom in here so that some of you guys can see this. And for me, I got to put the GoToWebinar thing down real quick. So you may be very surprised at this unanticipated gift. Please pause for a moment to see how real these notes feel and look. Yes, you guessed right. There's a prop money is designed using a water-based solution. So the first thing here, again, I'm not going to harp on this over and over again, but if this is going to be a sales letter, it can't be written like an email. They're not the same thing. They don't accomplish the same purpose. So this right here, these first two sentences, is what I would consider the lead of the sales piece. They're what are designed to intrigue me to continue reading. These do not intrigue me to continue reading. Obviously, if it's an email, even if it's a sales letter, then you would not be telling me about a surprise unanticipated gift, especially when it sounds like spam in the headline. And you're telling me to please pause to feel how real these notes feel and look. I'm trying to understand the reason you wrote this, and so if you were trying to write this in a way that would be a physical mailing letter that an independent filmmaker received in their actual mailbox, and you included a sample of the fake money, then you would immediately realize that this fake money does not look or feel real to the human hand and human eye. They are specifically designed to look and feel, or look real to a camera. That's why they're prop money. It's actually counterfeit to create money that looks like real money in real life. But you can create prop money to look like real money in a movie. That's how they get around the thing. A lot of you guys went with the FBI angle, the Rush Hour 2 angle. That's how they get around the counterfeit thing, and that's how they get around not getting sued by the Secret Service. They make it look not real in real life. And so if you've used one of the selling points that it feels real in your hands, it's wrong. It's a blatant lie. The reason being, they can't be. It's just against federal law, federal counterfeit law. And they do talk about that in the website when they're describing the product. So this lead right here does not encourage me to keep going. We have the highest quality proven to be the best on the market. That seems like a run-on sentence. Altogether, Jerome, this could be 100 times better. I'm not going to really beat a dead horse, but next time please read the instructions for the assignment and adhere to the word count, and also look at the purpose of the sales letter that you're writing in relation to the target market. This would not sell a single thing and would probably go to spam. All right, not all of them are going to be like that, and Jerome, please take everything I say with some love. I'm only trying to help you improve as a copywriter, so don't take this and think that you're the worst writer ever, because you're not. You simply misunderstood the assignment or misdid the assignment, and I can't do any more grading based on that misunderstanding. So next time, show me something better. All right. Next, I'm going to bring this over here so that I can look at things. All right. Richard, this one is yours, and I believe you're on live. Let's see what we got going on here. Yep, see you. Cool. All right, so this is Richard's sales letter. Prop movie money, the most realistic, trusted, durable brand of prop money you can buy without going to jail as a counterfeit cash criminal. Okay, so I'm assuming that you believe, or that you're talking to a level 2 awareness market here, where they're aware of prop money solutions. They're an independent filmmaker who's aware of prop solutions in general, and they're actively looking for a company to purchase prop money for. With that understanding of a level 2 awareness audience, this headline works, but I don't know if it calls out to them as a reason to stop. The headline is basically doing the majority of the heavy lifting in your sales copy. That's why people spend so much time on it. That's why people rewrite them 50 times or 100 times and do all this crazy stuff for headlines, because at the end of the day, if your headline does not capture their interest and attention and compel them to keep reading, then the rest of your sales letter is worthless. The same thing goes for the lead, which I would consider the first half of the first page, in order to basically condition them to keep reading. So prop movie money opens up with exactly what the person is looking for, most realistic, trusted, and durable brand of prop money you can buy. Okay, that is interesting, but it sounds like a generic claim. If I'm a solution-aware person in a highly sophisticated market, stage 3 or beyond, then this headline to me does not compel me necessarily to become interested. It might be at the same level of awareness as me, but it doesn't show me anything that I don't expect to see, and therefore doesn't really capture my attention. Now, depending on the context of how they arrived at this page, whether it was an ad that they saw, if this is going out in the mail to them as a physical address, or if this is going to them from a webinar script or a VSL script or something like that, changes how they perceive this. But just on the merit of the headline alone, it's good, but it's not great, because it is relevant to the awareness level, but it does not jump out and capture the attention of the person at a certain stage of sophistication, because they've seen it before. They see people making claims. The claims themselves have been tried over and over again. Every company thinks that they're the best. No company is going to tell you, except unless you're Avis Auto Rental, then nobody's going to tell you they're number 2, and nobody's going to want you to think that they're in any way inferior to any of their competitors. So it's good, but it's not great. And let's move on. Without going to jail as a counterfeit cash criminal, again, most of you guys are going to be using that angle because it's one of the things that jumps out about the website itself. But the film Rush Hour 2 is obviously involved with a counterfeit lawsuit due to the spilling of bills all over, and that people tried to spend them and blah, blah, blah. So that that's a bad thing that you can talk about, but I'm going to bring this up a couple times, and then I'm not going to beat the dead horse again. There are Rush Hour 2 corollaries when you are selling this, but given the target market that you were assigned for this particular piece, which was independent filmmakers, many of them do not have the budget, the scale, or the legal team to deal with something like this. And so when confronted with the possibility of a massive counterfeit lawsuit or a massive legal issue that they can't handle, that their insurance won't cover if they even have insurance, then most of them are going to opt to not do that. They're going to change their entire script and their entire budget to not do that thing. This is what's known as overselling the fear. If you're scaring them into non-action, if you're scaring them into changing their minds, it's not accomplishing the sales goal. And so what a lot of this does, especially for people who are on a budget, independent filmmakers, people who want to make a film that pops and that wins them awards, but doesn't necessarily win the box office, then they're going to have different motivations and they're going to have different fears and desires. So we're going to go over that a little bit with this piece, but I just wanted to point that out right here because Rush Hour 2 and the counterfeit lawsuit is a big thing that really hits, that a lot of people bring up with this. So headline's good, not great, because it doesn't capture my attention, but it does talk to my awareness level. We get it, you're producing a film. When I first read this, and to be perfectly honest with everyone, I wasn't able to give every single sales letter a really thorough vetting before hopping on the call here, so I am doing a raw read of a lot of these. But when I first read this lead, one of the things that I read in this, Richard, was a certain tone of sarcasm. And the tone of sarcasm can be good depending on your audience, but as long as you're commiserating with that audience and not demeaning or condescending to that audience. So right from the very beginning, we get it, you're producing a film, you've got your scene with the bank vault heist, the casino scam, or the drug deal, Floyd Mayweather money scene, or heroes surrounded by endless stacks of cold hard cash. There's a certain feeling of sarcasm to it,
that may not serve your purposes to get them to continue reading. And on top of that, because this is a solution-aware audience, the more flowery and the less focused on solutions that you are in the very beginning of this lead, the less they're going to stick with you. And so in order to make this better, I would first work on the headline to create something intriguing rather than simply a statement of fact, the most realistic, trusted, durable brand of prop money you can buy. Something intriguing to a level 2 awareness audience could be something like top prop money company in Hollywood offers $10,000 of free prop money to the next 20 buyers, or something like that. That would be a headline that also hits the solution-aware market of level 2, but captures the attention of a jaded, sophisticated audience at stage 3 or stage 4, because you're giving them a mechanism to attach themselves to and then compelling them to continue to read whatever it is you're about to do. That would be the difference between one that's simply meeting the requirement of awareness versus the one that is capturing both awareness and sophistication in one compelling, intriguing headline. So, with that said, most of our time, everybody watching this and watching this on the replay, we're going to spend the vast majority of our time on page 1 of these letters. That isn't because the other 5 or 6 pages that you wrote aren't relevant. It's because the vast majority of your money, upwards of 90% of your income, is going to be dictated by how you do in the first page and what you do in the first page. If you can get them to read and then get them to continue reading in the first page, and as long as you don't make some major mistakes in the rest of the sales letter, then you're going to convert the majority of the people who you're actually going to convert. But if you don't nail this first page, you can miss out to 80 to 90% of your sales, simply because all the people who might be buyers are not going to read the rest of the letter. There's a general rule of thumb when it comes to selling anything in general, but especially when it comes to sales copy. If you have 10 people who are seeing the sales, 10 people who could potentially be buyers, one of those 10 people will buy no matter what you do, right? And you could, have typos everywhere, your grammar could be off, the headline could be so-so, but as long as the big 4 are met before you ever write the piece, and you put 10 buyers in front of your sales message, one of those buyers will buy no matter what you do, no matter how bad your writing is. 2 to 4 of those buyers will buy based on the power of your sales copy. And that's where copywriters make their money, right? A mediocre copywriter that hits the big 4 consistently will convert at around 0.5% to 1% to cold traffic, just in general. But the person who can push that to 2% or 3% or 4% is the one that people end up paying 5 and 6 figures for consistently. The reason for that is because a 1% change on a 1 million person mailing is going to result in millions and millions of dollars, versus a 1% change to a person who only shows it to 20 people is going to result in $27. So the more you can shift that purchase to the right, the number of people that purchase to the right, that's your skill as a copywriter. So one's going to buy no matter what if you've got the big 4 down. And then 2 to 4 of them are going to buy based on the strength of your sales copy. So let's assume that you've got 4 of the 10 potential buyers to buy your sales copy because or buy your product because your copy is that good. 2 of the people who are potential buyers will not buy no matter what. You're never going to convert 100% of the people who read your stuff. It's just not going to happen. Even if they're a potential buyer, even if they're in the perfect market demographic, even if they hit your big 4 perfectly, you're not going to convert 100% of people for every single reason in the book: bad timing, bad cost stuff, cynicism, jadedness, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to hit 100%. Now, where you play with the 2 buyers, 4 buyers, 5 buyers, 7 buyers is in the strength of your sales copy, and to get the first 2 to 4 buyers past the one that was a gimme is in your first page. This first page here. To get the rest, to get the 5s and the 7s, is your entire letter. That needs to be completely on point with your entire letter. But if we're looking at statistics here, and I might be strategically over some people's heads, so let me know if I'm going a little bit in the clouds here. But if you can perfect your page 1, your headline, and your lead, then you will end up converting 2 to 3 times more people than you would convert with a regular headline, an average lead, things like that. Does that make sense to everyone? Let me know if that makes sense, guys. Okay. All right, cool. So let's move down the rest of this. So the lead itself, Richard, is not that easy to read. Feels a little bloggish rather than, you know, pulling me through the copy. It doesn't really, each line does not give me a reason to read the next line. So you're producing a film. Yes, that is obvious. Or they're in pre-production, or they're, you know, or they're thinking about producing a film at some point. These indie filmmakers have got a lot of films on their head, maybe not necessarily films on the books. You're producing a film. Okay, great. You've got your scene with the bank, all this kind of stuff. One of the things that I worry about doing really specific examples like this is if they don't have a specific example, or if they think that those specific examples are campy or above them or below them, sorry, then they're going to kind of tune out a little bit. You don't really want to dictate what someone is thinking. If you dictate what someone is thinking and they don't actually think that thing, then you either have to be a master at NLP in order to make them believe that thing, or you're going to turn them off. If you say, you're now thinking about a cat, and the person thinks about a cat and then goes, wait, I don't like cats, then you kind of lost their attention. The same thing happens with every single sales audience you're going to experience. You've got your scene with the bank vault heist. Maybe the indie filmmaker goes, dude, bank vault heists, everybody does that. My indie film is going to be way better than that. The casino scam, like Ocean's 13 or 27 or whatever they're on right now, is old news. I'm an indie filmmaker. I'm a professional. Like the drug deal. Okay, maybe the drug deal, because indies like to do drug stuff. But now, if you can see that if they say no, or if inside their head they're kind of like taking themselves out of the situation right at the very beginning in the lead, they're not going to be compelled to continue reading. I heard something from Nicholas Kusmich recently about how sales copy is not about making sure that the person understands you. It's making sure that that person feels like you understand them. And so if you're making it seem like you don't understand them by dictating something to them and then having them say no to it, you immediately lose them, right? So let's keep moving down. That Floyd, okay, convincing realistic cash for your scene. Obviously not going to use real money. Again, kind of an obvious thing. Liability is one thing that you can speak to these people about, but again, like I said with the Rush Hour 2 thing, liability can get too scary. Another example of like something that is too scary is if you're selling to parents, and parents have this natural desire for their kid to be the best, but they also have this like reflexive protection of their child and all things that could be potentially bad for their child. Now, if you are a plastic bottle salesperson and you are really harping on the BPA scare, like if you put milk in a plastic bottle, your kid is literally going to grow a second head and die, then you're probably not going to sell any of your bottles either, because they're worried about not just BPAs, but now they're freaking out about anything that's potentially dangerous to their child. One of my mentors actually gave me that almost exact advice when I was talking about selling to children, or when I was writing a letter about selling to children, because I kind of hyped it up too much and I made it a little bit too scary. And he's like, look, they're not going to be concerned about you and what you have to sell now. They're going to go home and check on their kid and make sure their kid is still there. And they're going to leave your sales letter. So careful with the scare tactics. They're really not as effective as most copywriters would have you believe. All right. Okay. Okay, Jenny, I got you. And Brian says, how do we nail the first page? So how do you nail the first page is the $24 million question with copywriting. It changes every single letter. It changes every single market, every single time you write the letter for the product. I I would argue that if you're going to try and beat a control that is written by maybe not one of the great people, but written by an average copywriter, and you're hired to go beat the control, you want to focus 90% of your time on beating the first page or the first 3 minutes of the VSL. So I can't tell you specifically how to do it other than to follow every principle and tactic I teach you in this course, because everything is different and it changes always. But it is important to get. Does that make sense, Brian? And you guys are going to hear my dogs in the background because this is a home office. So that's the way it happens. And okay, so let's, again, we're focusing on this lead pretty hard, and I do want to move on to other people's, Richard, but we're going to go through this whole thing for you. So if you do a Google search, some prop cash on the other hand is truly amazing. Great job of producing counterfeit cash. Let's see. Yeah, I guess I'm not sold on the lead that you took with the liability thing. I think that's the biggest thing that I would comment on here. If you're going to lead with liability, then you want to lead with very specific tangible liability claims and not wait until you get down here to talk about the Counterfeit Detection Act and talk about some of the issues with some of these films. I would lead with it. I would make it about the headline. Basically, you can do a curiosity headline, like the top prop money manufacturer in Hollywood gives away $10,000 in prop money to the first 20 buyers. Or you could do kind of a scare tactic headline, like there's only one prop money company in Hollywood that won't get you sued by the FBI. And that's your headline. And then they go through, and then you hit them with the rush hour thing, and you hit them with the Counterfeit Detection Act thing. You could try both, but I would recommend not trying to lead with, not trying to put both of them in the same sales letter. All right, we already talked about rush hour, counterfeit law, one-sided 75%, more than 150. Yeah, so this is the real size thing that I talked about with Jerome's letter. Only one color to discourage reproduction. Yep. So, laughing stock of the film community. So yeah, a little, maybe laying it on the fear a little bit too much. So big prop money is just don't have time to get this right. That's not a selling point that I would believe, given what you've just told me about how important it is. That's not a believable selling point. And these guys are a big prop money company. They supply most of the Hollywood prop money requirements, so that's what they are. I would say that that's incredibly important to those companies. Let's see. So, Richard, you asked, what would you consider a good lead instead? Did you get your answer when I described the two options? Like starting with the fear option? Okay, great, good. I can never tell when these questions come in because I'm too focused on the letter. All right, how to choose the right prop money specialist for you. Okay, cool, cool, cool. You can also lead with this, maybe. This is a potential lead for your sales letter as well. How to choose the right prop money provider, especially if they're a level 2 awareness. They're looking for solutions. They're probably looking at multiple solutions, and you're going to be the one to bring up, look, not all prop money is created equal. It's not just about finding the cheapest price. And then you talk about the legal requirements, you talk about the on-camera look, all that type of stuff. When you start to realize the awareness that is sitting with the client, I'm sorry, not the client, the prospect that's reading your letter, it starts to become a little bit more clear on what is valuable to them. So with a solution-aware person, they're aware of multiple options. And if they're not aware of multiple options, they are actively searching for multiple options at the time, which means they're Googling things like how to buy prop money for a film, or how to buy money for movies, or that type of thing, or how do I film a movie scene. That one gets a little closer to maybe problem-aware. But once you sit in that awareness, you start to realize some of the things that are valuable to that person as a letter, and then you start building your entire piece around that. And then, especially with level 2 aware people, your main focus is dealing with objections and getting them to act. And you guys can write that down. That's something that I would highly recommend remembering about a solution-aware audience. Your two main things that you want to do with a solution-aware audience are getting them to act and answering their objections. Those are the two main things. Because most of them, if they've reached a level of solution-aware, without being taken there by a sales piece, as in they were problem-aware and now they're aware of one solution because they read a sales message, then they have experienced multiple pitches, they have certain questions that have caused them to not buy yet, or they have certain reservations or objections that need to be answered before they buy. Those are the two main things. Level 2 awareness equals getting them to buy now, which is urgency, and answering their objections. That's the best thing you can do for a level 2 audience. I won't beat a dead horse. Okay, Richard, that is what I'm going to cover right now. I think everything else, you're talking about the benefits, how to choose a prop money, realism, durability, price range, things like that. And then a call to action, which is solid, and some FAQ, a little bit like that. So talking about the benefits is beneficial, but only if they get to that point by following the lead. So that is what I've got for Richard. Good job. Overall, not bad. I think that, you know, I got really specific with the headline and awareness type stuff because I didn't see any glaring problems, and I'll point out if I see some super glaring problems. But overall, not bad. Good job, Richard. All right, let's hop up. I believe this is Vikesh. Vikesh, are you on here live? No, he is not. All right, so I believe this is Vikesh's. We're a little short on the words, but not terrible. You're within 120 words, which isn't too bad. Good job. So there's a reason Netflix, HBO, Paramount, Warner Brothers, 20th Century Fox, and independent movie producers use our prop money. Okay, I like that subhead. That's a strong subhead because it provides social proof immediately, but also puts the target market in with the social proof and kind of gives them that little, you know, pet to their pride where, you know, they're put in the same headline as these people, Netflix, HBO, Paramount. So good subhead. I like that. Prop money's so real, we have to issue you with an FBI warning. Okay, and we're going to go back to the fear thing here. You don't want to scare them too much. The subhead was really good. The headline may not be super compelling to a solution-aware audience, right? Like I said before, a solution-aware, well, this is true of every single person who ever reads anything for sales copy, period, right? Any webinar, any VSL, any sales letter, any mailer, any Facebook ad at all. Nobody wants to feel like they're being sold. The only types of people who enjoy reading a blatant sales pitch are marketers, right? Now, if you operate in the business marketing space or, you know, your internet marketing space, then keep that in mind. Marketers like to read good marketing, and marketers also can handle a little bit more hype because they're just so used to everything. However, these are indie filmmakers. These are the opposite of marketers. These are the crunchy, you know, Portland coffee sippers and the dreadlocked Los Angeles natives and the East Coast, you know, scarf wearer type individuals, right? They are independent movie producers. They have a very high opinion of themselves. They have a very high opinion of what constitutes art, what constitutes crap. They have extremely specific and usually outlandish opinions. If you know anything about wine and you consider yourself to be a wine connoisseur, you know the difference between a wine connoisseur and a sommelier, or a person who's been reading Wine Spectator for a few years and a sommelier. They are the Wine Spectator readers. They are the people who go out with their iPhone or their camera and try to do something and win awards and get accolades and post on YouTube and get 200 views and that sort of thing. That's who these people are. Now, some of them will make it big, and some of them will realize that movies are a business and they're not an art form for if you actually want to go make money. But most of them are going to sit in the art form area. So if you are selling to them, immediate turnoff. Immediate turnoff. Keep that in mind. So I like the subhead, but the headline is an immediate turnoff for this audience. Telling a story about Rush Hour 2. Yep. Okay. Yes. $100 million of fake money. Again, I always thought that this was kind of an irrelevant thing. Considering $100 million of fake money, was that truly $100 million of in value of the fake money, or was it something that was like, here's a stack of fake $100 million? I don't really know. That's something that I would be thinking about as an indie filmmaker as well. So, okay. Another thing, I like how you formatted this. I think it makes it easier to read, but I sense hype. I feel hype. And especially, like, you have to know your target market. You have to know what actually hypes them up. This subhead is something that they will accept because they want to accept it. This headline, but what happened next will shock you. I mean, these are the type of people that hate marketing so much that they will specifically click out of things. They'll get ad blockers on their stuff. Like, you're not going to convince them with hypey sounding sales at all. You're going to convince them with things that persuade them and that they make them feel better about themselves, but it's not going to be hypey sales type stuff. All right, Richard, have a good one, man. All right, let's work on down here. Is this, let's see, we've got, so Vikesh is not on live right now, so he's going to be watching the replay. Is this valuable for everyone else? I mean, when I review these things, even though the person is not on here to ask questions, are you guys getting something from every single one of these reviews? I just want to get some feedback from the group real quick. Okay, good. Okay, good. So I'm gonna, because this is the exact same assignment, everybody's written it in a special different way, I'm gonna try to bring up different things about each one specifically, but also general lessons. This general lesson on this piece, and Vikesh, this is not an attack against your writing when you're listening to this. The general lesson for this piece is to understand your target market's language and tone. Because if you don't understand your target market's language and tone, they immediately bounce off your page, full stop. This is why I harp on the big four so much. Like this sales letter, as we look at it right now, looks like a extremely well put together, well formatted, well designed, and well written sales letter. And it is. The formatting is perfect. He even put in the little red arrows and wrote the handwriting type stuff. I mean, this, if I was looking at it from a pure design perspective, is an excellently written sales letter. And Vikesh, I want to encourage you to continue writing them like this because it's amazing practice and it works extremely well for me in order to go through this and for you to get the practice. However, because we messed up the tone and the language and the idea and the target market and what they represent in the beginning, then everything he actually wrote is off. Everything he actually wrote is off, which means that all of this work that went in here needs to be either modified or scrapped. You're going to hear a lot of A-list copywriters and really big-wig copywriters right now tell you about that moment that they were writing a huge letter, they were super proud of it, and they took it to their mentor, and their mentor's like, throw it away, rip it up. Or, like one of my favorites was, well, I guess it's better than starting with a blank page. So I don't know if you guys have I don't know if you guys have heard this story yet, but one of my copywriting mentors, I've had several, before he was my copywriting mentor, this was years before he became my mentor, actually saw a VSL that I had written, and it took me 4 hours to write the VSL. It was super quick. I did it for free for a friend, and I threw it up there, and I kind of did it tongue-in-cheek. But I still threw it up, and I still threw it up for people to go like notice or grade or something like that. And this guy came on and said, if you charge someone money for this, you need to immediately refund them and quit writing copy forever. That was his feedback to me on the letter. So there are good ways to get feedback. Gladly I didn't, but there's good ways to get feedback and bad ways to get feedback. But there is a very real danger of missing the big four and having to completely rewrite something. So that's going to cause a lot of you guys to freak out and not write stuff, or to write stuff at the last minute. But what it should make you guys do is, instead of freaking out, just focus on the big four and verify what you believe about the big four. So say, okay, I think that this audience is this type of audience. I think they're at this level of awareness, this level of sophistication. This is their primal fear. This is their primal desire. These are their core needs and how they're currently being met. And this is their demographic and psychographic information. I have that now. Now I'm going to verify my assumptions. Is this truly the target market? Okay. Yes, I can verify that through research. Is this truly their primal desire? Yes, I can verify that through research, and here's some of the words that they use to verify that. Is this their primal fear? Yes, I can verify, here's the research. Are these their core needs? Oh, no, I got to tweak that. Here's how I can verify that, here's the research. Just go down the line. Treat it like an experiment, treat it like something scientific, rather than this gut feeling. And you will miss far less of these types of things than if you would just go with a gut feeling or go with whatever felt good at the time. So that's my main thing with this piece right here. Isn't it time you started using the same prop money the FBI is afraid of? I would never buy money that would make me get the FBI looking at me, ever. Right? It's the same reason that I'm not going to go and buy 100 bags of fertilizer on Amazon. It's the same, it's the same reason that I'm not going to buy a black ski mask, a black backpack, a shotgun, and a map of Washington, D.C. all in the same 15 minutes, right? I'm not going to do that. So I'm also not going to buy prop money that puts me under the microscope for the FBI, especially if I'm already operating an indie operation, which are notorious for not having insurance, not having like union rules, and not having like basic safety stuff. So absolutely not. This is a bad selling point. Okay, social proof. I love it. Add social proof. Perfect. I like the specificity. We just shipped $650,000 of prop money for Hawaii Five-0. Awesome. Good job. Yep. Made specifically for high definition media. That's excellent. That's a good selling point. Low budget costs. That is hugely important for an indie developer. So all of these things are very important. Okay, cool. Got you covered. Yep. A lot of these are the selling points on the website. The secret. Cool, cool. That's not really a secret, having industry contacts. One thing about LA and one thing about the film industry is you'll quickly realize that everybody knows everybody and everybody's everybody's friend. So having contacts is kind of like saying, I have a car, or I breathe sometimes, especially in the film industry. So I would not use that as a selling point. Also, everyone, professionalism goes down, sarcasm goes up as I do these, because I do the same thing over and over, so I apologize in advance if I get too sarcastic and I hurt your feelings. Your audience knows when you're using fake money. Okay. That's not really true. I would not believe that as an indie filmmaker. I mean, now, obviously, if your main character drops a wad of money on the ground and it bounces back up to his hand, then yes, there's probably going to be an issue. But for the most part, moviegoers don't notice those types of things. So, cool, interesting. I like, this is a selling point that there's different eras of money depending on your timepiece. Also keep in mind though, indie filmmakers are on a budget, and timepiece movies are the most expensive types of movies to film, which means that there's not a whole lot of the back and forth. All of this is in research and in different forums and different types of things that you can find. Now, granted, you guys had a short timeline, 2 weeks, but the first guys had 1 week to do this, so you guys are actually doing a much better job than the first guys. No offense, first guys, if you're watching this. Okay, let's move on to Giles. Giles, you on live? Awesome. How's it going, man? So, Giles, for the few aspiring Tarantinos of this world, bring your film to life with all the money you need.
Okay. One of the previous mentees went with a headline similar to this, and one thing that I'm going to say is that this headline is interesting to the target market. Obviously, Tarantino is one that a lot of them look up to, but I also know that a lot of people hate Tarantino if they're an indie filmmaker. He's a very polarizing figure. So, first point, if you're going to use polarizing figures in your headlines or your marketing at all, I'm not just talking about Tarantino. I mean, if you want to use Donald Trump, for or against, if you want to use Glenn Beck, for or against, you know, any of these politically divisive people, Kim Kardashian, for or against, whatever. If you're using polarizing figures in your marketing, be prepared to justify the use of the polarizing figure in some way, shape, or form, and make it so that the polarizing figure is a person that your audience loves. Go back to Module 1, you know, the kind of people they love, the kind of people they hate. You don't want to use a person that indie filmmakers hate, like Michael Bay. Most indie filmmakers hate Michael Bay because Michael Bay is like such a pure movie capitalist that it's not even funny. So most of them hate him. But Tarantino's kind of a polarizing figure. Some people love him, some people hate him, blah, 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 right? First thing, if you're going to use polarizing people, then justify the use of the polarizing person right at the very beginning. Otherwise, you could always hamstring your thing. One of the best pieces I ever wrote, one of the best campaigns I ever ran, used Glenn Beck, and it was a very, very polarizing type thing. You should have seen the Facebook ads. It was terrible. However, it sold like crazy. And that was a good thing because their target market was very conservative, very Glenn Beck heavy. So with that said, the other part of this headline, and the reason that I bring it up is because a couple previous students have done this, bring your film to life with all the money you need, is interesting and compelling and something that would make me want to continue reading. Although I would probably take this, I would take this, I would move this over, I would take this down, I would move this down to a subhead, and this would be my headline, so it would look like this. Bring your film to life with all the money you need. Now I'm going to get to my point. Bring your film to life with all the money you need does not necessarily or in any way imply that you are going to sell them prop money for their film. This, to an indie filmmaker, is super interesting because they are interested in getting funding for their film and getting people to pay them to make the film. They don't have enough money to film it. They want as much money as they can to film it. And if they read this and think, bring your film to life with all the money you need, and they go in expecting to learn about getting funding for their film, and then down here they hear about prop money, they're going to feel cheated, and they're going to feel like they don't, yeah, they've been duped, like you said, Giles, right? So understand that too. This headline is compelling, but for the wrong reason. And that's the meta thing that I'm going to talk about with this piece. The headline is, this is the dance of copywriting. You want the headline to be as compelling as possible, but you can't do it at the expense of them feeling duped or cheated, right? And a lot of times sales messages do this, and actually it's been kind of a thing that tends to happen with VSLs and webinars these days and things like that, where you promise one thing and then you don't fulfill on that promise. One of the most classic examples of this with an actual letter that did really well, but actually left a lot of people feeling, you know, at least cheated or you know, confused in some way, was the goldfish sales letter, a VSL that John Benson wrote for a dating product. He got your attention and broke your pattern with NLP by bringing up a goldfish at the very beginning. He said, hi, I'm John Benson, and this is a goldfish. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to explain to you why this goldfish makes me, you know, makes all the hottest girls attracted to me, or whatever his particular line was. And then proceeded to never talk about why the goldfish was relevant ever again. That type of bait and switch, that type of dupe, that type of trick is quickly becoming something that isn't relevant. Same thing with webinars. People spend the first 30 minutes of a webinar talking about themselves and telling about why things are super valuable. It's starting to make an enormous impact in the marketplace because everyone is doing it and everybody's learning to do it. And so you're, as a copywriter, confronting that cynicism. And you're only keeping the people who are the desperate people who are willing to sit through 30 minutes of crap like that and then be sold something.
Brian says, can you expand on what you mean by justifying the figure? Yes. So in regards to a polarizing figure, if you decide to use a polarizing figure in your marketing, in order to justify their use, you basically have to say, my target market loves this person, but they also know that they're a polarizing person. And that's going to capture their attention and their interest immediately. And it's also going to polarize against the people who are not going to buy this. That's the justification for that figure. So in the promotion I ran with Glenn Beck, I justified the use of Glenn Beck because he was a polarizing figure, but my target market was an older conservative market, and that is Glenn Beck's major clientele. The people who hate Glenn Beck that are going to be seeing these ads are going to cause more comments and shares and things like that, that is going to expand the reach of this promotion, but simultaneously drag down the conversation in the comments. So I've got to be willing to play that. And it captures attention, and it gets people riled up. So if you're in some sort of like financial or survivalist or something that has to do with a more conservative market like martial arts or gun sales or something like that, you probably couldn't hurt to use some sort of polarizing figure like Donald Trump or like Glenn Beck is another good one, things like that, because that's going to polarize your audience on your side versus the other side. And one of the things I talked about with Richard on the phone call you guys listened to was the pendulum shift. And what we talked about on that call was the pendulum in regards to his specific market. But here's what the pendulum means in global context. We're switching from a more self-centered society to a more we-centered society. And what happens with that is we start banding together in tribes and start alienating other tribes. All across the world this is happening. And we start to respond more to language that puts people on the outside and makes us part of the in crowd. That's always a human thing, but we're starting to respond to it more and more nowadays. So that's another pendulum shift that you can also get from this. All right, Giles, let's move on here. Does that answer your question, Brian? Let me know. All right, I think, yes, sweet. Okay, cool. Let's move on. Still with me, guys? We're coming up on an hour. Okay. I'm going to start going through these a little bit quicker because I really don't want you guys to be on here for a super long time. But hopefully this is valuable for everyone, and I do want to get to every single person's piece and give some feedback on it. All right, cool. So let's jump in here. Let's look at the lead. I already changed this headline and talked about that. Frenzy of activity, putting movie together. Yes, yes. Okay. Camera crew, delays, eat into times, diminished budget. Yes. Commiseration. I would call this a commiseration lead. And in a commiseration lead, you want to commiserate on things that the prospect will believe and also understand about themselves, but you don't want them to go, well, yeah, duh, right? A commiseration lead is more about connecting with them emotionally on some of their struggles and pains and solutions and things like that, rather than simply describing a situation that they already understand to themselves. So if you're going to do a commiseration lead, you're not going to hear about a commiseration lead in Great Leads if you go read that book, because it doesn't exist. But a commiseration lead, I've found, is a great way to connect with younger audiences. We're talking sub 40 years old. And the reason for that is a lot of the stuff that appeals to sub 40 years old, millennial generation, younger Gen X generation is social in nature and relatable and tribal in nature. So if you can connect to them on an emotional level that commiserates with some sort of a joined pain or some shared experience, then they will connect with you. But it can't be superfluous. It can't be something that that they take for granted, which this is starting to kind of eat into taking for granted, because this is something that every single filmmaker who's ever been a filmmaker will understand and will commiserate with, and it's not necessarily something brand new. Now, you could tell a story about yourself, and that's what I would highly recommend. If you're the author of a piece or your client is an author of a piece, then you can tell a personal story that talks about all of this stuff, but basically tells a more specific story And that's super compelling, and you can use basically the same content. So that's something you can consider if you want to write in a first-person style sales message. Then they're going to follow along easier. Stories sell, plain and simple. One of the modules we go into later will tell you about that, but that requires a little bit more finesse because you have to simultaneously be yourself or your client and close enough to what the prospect is in order to sell them and make them feel connected. Sorry if I'm going a little fast. Let's go through here. Yes, Deborah, where is yours? All the way at the end. Okay, yeah, that's right, because I confirmed I got it. We'll do yours next, Deborah. Okay. And Giles, that's what I'm going to cover right here. Other main thing, obviously, only 1,000 words, not 2,000. So I'm not going to cover too much of this, but just making sure you've got stuff like special offers, call to action, email us, same treatment. All right, so nothing terrible when we get in here, but yeah, this lead is what you want to work on, and if it's going to be a commiseration lead, then I'd put more work into a more specific emotional connection. Okay. All right. So let's do Deborah's. All right. And again, you start to see some commonalities between what angles people choose for these letters, so I'm not going to harp on them over and over again. Using the wrong prop money is a federal crime, and this is what you can do about it. Here's prop money will believe, make your firm look great, will get in trouble with the Secret Service. Okay, this headline is not scary enough to scare me away, but just scary enough to make me read. So I actually like this. Good job, Debbie. Using the wrong prop money is a federal crime. That's a strong claim. It's also not scary enough for me to run away or to immediately like can that scene. And this is what you can do about it. Promises that you're going to show me a solution. Here's the prop movie money that your audience will believe. And this is reaching out to them at a solution aware level, which means they basically know that this is going to be a pitch for prop money, but they're also getting some information out of it. Yes. Okay. So I like the headline. I like the sub-headline. Good job on those, Debbie. I think that these, and also it pulls me halfway down the page already, which is a good thing if I'm reading this as a page. All right. Have a good one, Giles. So this pulls, as in any filmmaker, you have enough things to worry about. Yes, that is a thing that they think about themselves and believe, and they can commiserate with. Finding legal, realistic money for your movie should not be on that list. Yes, that's also something they can commiserate with. Well done. This is why we provide the best fake money real money can buy. I like that. That's kind of like, it's not too cute. I hate cute things in sales copy. That's not too cute, but it kind of makes me chuckle a little bit. And I think that someone who's also interested in reading this would chuckle. So that's good. Don't be too cute. That's one of the main things in your copy. Gary Halbert calls it just sell the damn thing. I just say don't be cute because a lot of times people try to be cute or pithy or punny in their marketing, and it just comes off as trying too hard or irrelevant and time wasting, but this does not. So this looks good. Let's see. Yes, they do. That's absolutely true. Good job. So this is the level of detail of commiseration that I would expect. As a filmmaker, you watch other people's films, you analyze everything. Absolutely. I've sat down with a person who was a film studies major. I'm sorry, he went to school for directing, went to get his master's degree in directing. Now he wants to be a director. He is a consummate indie filmmaker. And he pauses the movie and he frickin' points things out and he talks through the whole damn thing, and it's so annoying. But that's what they do. They analyze everything. You notice the way the music fits the action, details of the costumes, check to see how realistic the props are. Yes, they do that. So that's the level of commiseration that I would expect. Yes. Yes. I would do this. And I don't know if this is going to fuck up the formatting on the other thing, but okay. That's what I would do. I make this bold and center. And you know one of the fastest ways, because this is a key. One of the fastest ways to lose your audience is when something just doesn't feel right. That's something that they are very afraid of, that they will cause them to continue reading through this thing. Also, it flows with the same formatting of what you've got going on. When it's not believable, this is why you know you must. I would try, one of the things that I will go meta on here for everyone is go through your writing and read it out loud as if you were actually presenting it on stage or reading it as a VSL or reading it to a friend, because you're going to catch some things that you wrote that don't make sense in a conversation or verbally or when it's in somebody's head. The reason you do that is because almost every single person who will be reading your sales message will sub-vocalize the words. That's how most people read. And because of that, if something doesn't sound right when they sub-vocalize it, it's going to throw them off and be disjointed. So that's one of the meta things that you guys can do to make your copy better every single time, is once you've written it the first time, go through and read it out loud. This is obvious if you're doing something like a VSL or a webinar script, but if you're writing a written sales page, go through and read it out loud. Big scene, stacks of money, pivotal plot, thanks for using Monopoly money, it's over, start pointing and stickering in the theater, you'll never get them back. Not necessarily. And indie filmmakers know this. You can't give the audience too much credit. I've heard them say stuff like that, like you got to really spell it out to them. So the audience isn't really going to notice what they are going to feel. And that's why we, doesn't feel right. That's why I harped on this right here and I bolded this. The quickest way to lose your audience is when something doesn't feel right. They're not going to point and snicker, but they're definitely going to be like, you know, that car is obviously not really driving on a road. There's a green screen. Or that person obviously can't jump that far. They're on a wire. Or that prop money is obviously not real. Look how high it bounced. Or look how like weird and rubbery it feels. They're not going to point and snicker, but they're going to feel that viscerally. And one of the things that what these indie filmmakers are afraid of is they don't want these people to like lose interest or walk out of their film or, you know, mark them down on some sort of like film project, something like that, if they're going for an award. Can you? Okay. Can everybody hear me? Check, check. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay. Okay. Did I cut out there for a second? Daryl said that he couldn't hear. Okay. All right. Yeah, probably your connection, Daryl. Everybody else didn't have an issue. Sorry about that. So that's what I would mention about that. But one of the good things, Debbie, is you've gotten me through the first page here. You've got me through the first page, and if this is a physical letter, you've got me to turn the page. That's the important thing. We're good on this headline. We're good on this lead. I feel like it's strong. I feel like it hits the right levels of awareness and doesn't get too hypey and commiserates correctly. So well done on the first little bit here. So now we're going to move down the page and actually see what we can do. Yeah, again, you kind of go right into that feeling thing. Perfect. So one flop and you're labeled. Nice. Good use of social proof immediately after this claim. Money scene is going to look great. We've learned closely, we can guarantee, really important. Dan Gray. Okay, cool. Yes. Got it. Yes, we're talking about Secret Service and actors stealing fake money and trying to pay for stuff. Motion picture use only. Yes. Okay, cool. So I would say that this is a good use of the original fear type lead where you are commiserating with their stuff to the point where they believe that you're kind of an insider, but you're warning them about a very legitimate thing that they may or may not have a super amount of knowledge on, and then educating them quickly. I believe this is a strong piece right now. Details. Yes, so success as a filmmaker, they care about their success. Maybe it doesn't necessarily depend on the details of prop money, but it certainly depends on details like not getting sued. So that is something that you can continue with the theme of this entire piece. Okay. Okay. Printing. Interesting. So you tell the story. Is that a true story or not? Is that on the website, or is that just something you made up, Debbie? Because if you made that up, that's awesome. Let's see. Let me know if you made that up. I'm always a big fan of actually making up stories that sound true in order to sell things, because that's what we do in general. I mean, obviously you don't want to lie about the benefits of something, or you don't want to lie about the effects of something, but if you can tell a story from the perspective of an individual, I mean, most big brands right now are extremely successfully selling individual stories. Like, I mean, what is it? Flo from Progressive Insurance is one of the top paid commercial actresses in the world now because of all of her stuff. And so personifying your stuff is actually really beneficial. Made up the testimonial. Okay, I would never make up testimonials. However, I would use testimonials judiciously by finding them. One of the best places to find testimonials, if you don't actually have ones for like that are on the website or something like that, is on Amazon. Go on Amazon, go to the reviews and those types of things. Look for verified owner, verified buyer, or something like that. Those are technically testimonials, and as long as it's for the same product, then that's what I would do. All right. Yep. Okay. 100% no risk. Take it to the bank guarantee. Cool. Well done, Debbie. Good job. Honestly, I don't have too much to add here. I mean, unless we're going to get really specific on the details, spacing, word choice, flow, stories, block text. Like, I would never have this big of a block in any sales letter that's written today in 2016 or beyond, because it's most audiences in general will not read block text, especially if they see something like this. They'll zone out. They'll go down to the next big thing. Formatting, flow, handling objections, what level of the objections and where they're at, things like that. So we're not going to go super deep on this one, but let's see. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so the reason, nice. So Deborah says, it's an interesting assignment for me. My son is at NYU as a music composition major with an emphasis on film scoring. He's a film buff. It was fun to look at films like this, like he might. Yes. So the reason this is done really well, everybody who's listening to this live and on the recording, is because Deborah had a very good idea of who the target market was. She was using a specific person who happens to be her son, so she's intimately aware of who that person is and how they think, and then wrote the letter from that perspective of knowing who the target market is. This is the difference between understanding the target market at a deeper level and not understanding the target market at a deeper level. So if you've never even considered what it would be like to be an independent filmmaker and you were trying to scramble and figure out who these people are and do the research and find that type of stuff, and you found it very difficult, this is your competition. Because if somebody else understands your target market better than you do as a copywriter, they will almost always win and write better copy than you. Plain and simple. You could be the better writer, but if they understand it better, they're going to crush you. That's also true. I had a client once who hired an A-list. We're talking, top 10 in the world. You would recognize their name. I'm not going to say it. Hired an A-list copywriter to write copy for their product. And they compared the copy that copywriter wrote for their product to the copy that the founder of the company wrote for their product. And the founder of the company blew that A-lister out of the water despite having no formal copywriting training whatsoever. And the reason for that is because the founder knew the market better, the target market better.
and the A-lister did not. That is the only difference. The A-lister was a better writer, had better knowledge of persuasion, was better at NLP, all of those things, and could not beat the founder simply because of their awareness of the target market. So that's how powerful this is. You could beat an A-lister if you know the target market better. And there's plenty of examples to give you. So good job on this one, Debbie. All right, let's jump in to prop money. All right, all right. Whose is this? Elena. Are you still on? Awesome. How's it going, Elena? So let's do this. Professional filmmakers know the devil is in the details. Never let bad prop money butcher the authenticity of your production. Okay, so you went with kind of a more blog-ish style here rather than a sales letter. This to me looks like a blog. It looks like a Medium article, something like that. One thing I will say is the same thing I said to Debbie. Block text is killing this piece. Nobody wants to read block text anymore. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go full Andre Chaperone and make a different line for every single sentence, but I would get really close and I would start getting familiar with bolding, formatting, italicizing, underlining, using dot, dot, dots, using conversational quotes, things like that, because the more you can make it read like an actual conversation, the easier it's going to be for people to pull down the page. So, have you ever watched a great independent film with incredible storyline, potential, great talent, all the right ingredients, maybe earns place in history? Okay. It gets ruined by that one scene that puts everyone off. Yep. Okay. Small detail. Watch the movies. Okay, so my first, well, not my first. One of my biggest critiques of this would be that it reads too much like academic writing than it does sales copy. It feels like you wrote this for an assignment, which is not how sales copy should feel or read. And I understand that, yes, this was an assignment, but if I would not continue to read this if I were an independent filmmaker, because I don't get the point yet, especially if I'm awareness level 1, right? This is not something that I would read for pleasure. This is not something that I would read to educate myself about something because I haven't been promised any piece of education. I haven't been given a compelling reason to continue reading, and I would not take time out of what I'm searching for at the time, which is searching for a solution, to read this given the headline and the initial few lines here, because so far I'm getting what seems like an opinion piece or some sort of assignment and not something that is incredibly actionably valuable to me right now. And that's an awareness thing, but that's also an attention and intriguingness thing. As written right now, I think this would be better as a content blog, but it's not very persuasive, and I'm sure that it kind of continues as we go here. Now we're talking about servers, waiting for the appetizer, swirling the wine, sensory experiences. We're not really talking about movies for multiple things here. There's really no compelling reason for me to continue all the way down here. Yeah. Is this making sense, Elena? I can't really give a whole lot of other feedback on this. Okay. That's the big meta thing for everyone else who's watching this to take away. This is well written, but it's not going to sell anything, because it's not a story that compels me to continue reading. It is not a persuasive letter that compels me to continue reading, like somehow I'm being pulled down the page even though I don't know how. It's not informative or educational and something that I want to continue reading. Like a headline that says the top 10 mistakes indie filmmakers make that could land them in jail. That sounds like a blog title, but I'm going to read it. I'm going to read all 10 of them because I don't want to go to jail. And one of those is using bad prop money, and then you can link to it. This
is an example of what I used to do as a writer and a copywriter that my mentor beat out of me very, very quickly. And so I'm going to do that the same to you, Yelena, because I used to write like this, and I thought I was an awesome writer, and then I ran it through Flesch and Cade, and I was at like a 13 or 14 grade level reading level. I didn't really sell anything at all, and it just wasn't compelling. So we're gonna break you of that. Okay, make sense? Okay, cool. All right, let's jump into the next one. I gotta zoom in this one even more. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about when I mention Andre Chaperon style writing, except for the black text down here. But like one sentence per line kind of thing. I like it. It pulls your eyes down the page. But it also has to make sense and it has to be well formatted. So Brian, let's go into this. Are you on live? Awesome. How's it going, man? Let's see. To the filmmaker ready to make their name in the filmmaking world. Okay. I don't necessarily have a problem with that as a pre-head. That is not a headline. That is a pre-head, right? Or maybe a, instead of dear friend type thing, if you're actually writing a letter, you could do this in the line that says to the filmmaker, like that. But this is not an actual headline. So the reason being, it's not intriguing, it's not attention grabbing, it's not compelling, and it doesn't encourage me to keep reading unless I somehow really, I really want to believe that this is going to help me in some way. So like maybe I'm super desperate or something like that. So that's the first thing here. So you don't have a headline. Also, the assignment is half as long as it needs to be. It's another ding. It's 1,093 words. So there's two big things. I would not consider this a headline. I would say that it's a good or decent pre-head or from line. All right, let's see what we got here. You've dreamed about your film for what seems like an entire lifetime. Played the whole process in your head a million times. Okay. So this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. I forgot whose letter I was reviewing at the time, but this is an example of telling them what they're thinking and hoping that they actually agree with you so that you don't lose them. If you're going to try to say things like this, like you've dreamed about your film, you've played the whole process, you've spent a lot of time, you've got all this stuff in your hands, you finally, like when you're saying you are, you will, that kind of direct language, if they disagree with you, then they will leave. They don't need to read whatever it is that you're writing because they already disagree with you. Right? Unless they disagree with you so vehemently that they have to continue to read to see what you said and then bitch about it in the comments or send you hate mail. That's another thing entirely. But most of them are going to read, if they read this and say, you've dreamed about your film for what seems like a lifetime, and they go, ugh, no. Or, ugh, this sounds like I'm about to get sold something. Right? It's about awareness of the target market, but also not claiming something about the target market that you aren't absolutely true or absolutely confident that it is true. For instance, you dream about your film for what seems like an entire lifetime. In my experience with independent filmmakers, it's not film, it's films, or making films in general. So there's not one specific thing they want to create. They simply want to create lots of stuff. So they're not dreaming about a film, they're dreaming about lots of films, or they're dreaming about the next film, or they're dreaming about something that they are going to work on in the future, or something like that. Maybe they're assisting another director or producer. They're actively involved and engaged, but they're certainly not these dreamers that sit around and think about their dream film. Maybe they have like one movie they want to make in the back, but it's probably not relevant to the thing that they're searching for a solution for right now. And if they're dreaming about the film, they're not actively searching for very minute solutions in the prop money realm of things, right? There are more important things to making an independent film a reality than prop money, plain and simple. So you have to deal with that reality and then come at them with the conversation they're having in their head. And it's not, oh, I've dreamed about my film forever and now I need the perfect prop money. That's not what they're thinking. They're thinking, oh shit, my film is real. I'm in pre-production. We're going to do this scene right now and I need some prop money for this scene. Where do I go? What do I do? And so they go, okay, prop money, or prop money for indie film, or prop money low budget on Google, or they see something floating around Facebook when they're thinking about it and it goes, oh, Hollywood prop money sale or something like that. That's what's going to capture their attention, and then this copy is not going to compel them to continue reading. Does that make sense, Brian? Let me know if that makes sense. I'm having trouble seeing the comments again. I can only see what Yelena said last. Okay, there we go. Okay, perfect. So let's see what we've got here. Yeah, I mean, that's the major feedback I have in the beginning here. Now, I will say, though, I like the Andre Chaperon style of putting one line per one sentence per line and drawing down, because it does, if they're going to read, they're going to read all the way down to like page number 2 before they start seeing block text and stopping them. So I do like that because it tends to drag your eyes down the page better. I've had a lot of success with that in various different mediums because people are just tired of block text. I mean, nobody wants to read block text, especially thick block text. So I have a personal vendetta against block text. I'm sure it'll work for some audiences, but I don't like it. Also a little bit superfluous, like you're getting a little bit poetic here. Copy is not poetry. If somebody wants to make me an Instagram image for that, I would appreciate it, but copy is not poetry. We're looking to convince people, not to entrance people, and I think a lot of this is a little bit overdone, over the top in general. Does that make sense, Brian? Let me know if that makes sense. Oh, hopefully it makes sense. Okay, so yeah, that's the major feedback I have here. I would look for a headline that matches the awareness and sophistication level of the audience. So they are solution aware, actively looking for a solution. They need to be made to act now, urgency, and they need to have their objections answered. The headline also has to intrigue them and capture their attention and compel them to continue reading. Right? Those things. And that headline needs to then lead into the first page of your copy that introduces the problem they're dealing with or expands on the promise of the headline, and then continues to draw them down the page into the copy and start answering their objections and providing reasons to act now and urgency and things like that. So the headline's job, capture attention, intrigue, and compel people to read further. And the copy's job in general for an awareness level 2 audience is to provide a certain amount of urgency, or enough urgency to make them act, and to answer the objections that they have in their head already, because they're obviously thinking of these objections. Does that make sense? Okay. Yep. This is Gary Halbert, like, just sell the damn thing type stuff. Sweet. I'm going to move on to the next person. Charlotte. Charlotte is not on live. So Charlotte, 1,500 words, didn't quite make the 2,000. Let me see. Experience, order. Okay, buttons. Cool. Nice. Awesome. Okay. Get the right bang for your buck. This sounds actually like a scene from a movie. Interesting. Okay, I see. If you were going for an actual sounding of like a scene from a movie as your intro or your headline and your lead, I kind of like that idea. I don't think it was executed well right here, Charlotte, but I love the idea because I think that is a way to capture an indie filmmaker or filmmaker's attention right away because they're used to reading scripts and cut sheets and things like that. But it doesn't immediately tell them it's a sales page. So I like that idea. And so the meta takeaway from this one would be, don't be afraid to use attention-grabbing things that are kind of non-salesy or non-traditional. If you can capture their attention and then introduce what you want to tell them, either the promise or the problem or the claim or whatever it is, then this is a good way to start. I would say we could work on the execution of this so that it makes more sense. Possibly make this, line by line. Everybody put your hands up. Maybe even to the extent of writing it like a script. So, we've got, I'm bad at this, I'm not really sure. Like if it's an actual piece of text for them saying something or a character or whatever, using that idea to capture the attention of your target market, but then also introduce the problem, and then by then they've already read half your first page. I like that concept. I just think we need to work on the execution here. Get the right bang for your buck is a headline that doesn't mean anything to me whatsoever, just in general. Now, if you did something pithy, like get the right buck for your buck, or get the right money for your money, might capture my attention, especially if I'm actively looking for prop money. And that would be the key. Obviously, if you're going for a problem-aware, desire-aware, up the awareness chain, you're not going to, that headline's not going to work. But if you do something like what Deborah did with her, the best fake money, real money can buy type thing, you could do the same concept with your headline with get the right money for your money, or get the right buck for your buck, or something like that. That's how I would focus on that. But as it is right now, that headline doesn't really mean anything to me and doesn't compel me to keep going. So as the best prop money company, once again, like we talked about with the very first, the second letter that we reviewed, best is irrelevant, especially for younger audiences, because no company is going to claim that they're not the best. So it needs to be verified immediately. Or you can say best without saying best. You can say the #1 Hollywood, or the #1 chosen, the #1 chosen money, prop money provider in Hollywood, or 9 out of 10 prop directors recommend, or something like that, where the proof element is built into that subheadline. That's how I would use best, and not just the word best, because best is kind of a cop-out. Nobody trusts it. How to make, okay, authentic, $100 million for 4 days. So yes, I mean, this is an obvious thing. So this is more what they're concerned about, what's good on camera, but obviously legal stuff as well. We already kind of hit on legal stuff, liability stuff, all that type. So that is where we're moving there. I think that's the major thing that I want to cover with this. Meta, don't be afraid to use something unique or attention-grabbing that your target market will appeal to your target market. And in this case, that might have been creative in writing the very first part of the lead and the headline like a actual script, and then getting them to read that, because nobody's ever read a script right at the top when they're not expecting to, and so it captures their attention. It's weird, it's odd, and by the time they're done, they're halfway down the page. It's a good concept. Work on the headline. given the audience awareness, you could tweak it. It could be good. Don't use words like best or anything like that. Be more descriptive. Be more proof element with the as much as you possibly can, especially with an awareness level 2 audience, because they've already seen the claims, especially at higher sophistication levels. So you need to be able to prove those claims immediately, otherwise they're just going to bounce and not look at your stuff. Yep. Okay, and again, if this first part is not nailed down, then I'm not going to continue reading through here. So let's get the first part nailed down first, and then we can work on details. All right, next one. If you are on the call live, remind me that this is yours. Whose is this? Whose is this? All right, Anthony, sweet. That's what I thought. That's what I have in my order, but I don't see your name on here. In the future, everybody listening to this live and on the recording, put your name on your assignment, please. Somewhere. Doesn't matter where, just somewhere so I know what it is. Okay. How $39 in prop money caused a mini ride on the Vegas Strip. I like that headline. Or how I got the perfect money shot for an independent film. I don't think you need the subhead. It was a balmy night out in Vegas. Some shooting. Okay, interesting. This is so okay. This is a great example of what I talked about in a couple letters back, where if you're going to tell a story, tell it personally, tell it individually, tell it interestingly. $39 in prop money causing a mini riot on the Vegas Strip, and then you're telling a story about it, is a compelling lead, especially when you've got some comic book shit going on the bottom here with foom or noise effects that you read. That's awesome. So this is being shot on the Vegas Strip guerrilla style. John Waters would be proud. There's no extras. Just real, normal, slightly intoxicated vacationers on the streets. Okay. Super illegal. And I like it. Okay, so this lead and headline is great, Anthony. Good job. I am continuing to read down the page. Okay. Yeah, I like that. That's funny. The word great is kindling and not much else. Interesting. All right. Actually, Anthony, this is extremely excellent. I like it. Well done. I don't really have a whole lot to, like, as far as big meta stuff to change about these first 2 pages. Some of the things I like specifically, except for this, you can delete that. That's not necessary. But the headline is good, captures my attention, especially as an independent filmmaker. I'm curious, like in prop money. I'm curious about prop money. The only thing I will say is that it's not quite at the awareness level to market headline, sweet spot. I think that this could work better for a problem-aware or desire-aware independent filmmaker, right? So the reason being it's a story lead and a story-based headline. And if I'm a person who is actively searching for a solution to my problem, then I might pass over this for right now because I want to read it later, or just something. But you can easily capture people at a level 2 of awareness, distracting themselves or something like that. So it's not necessarily a deal breaker. It's just something that I would point out to everyone watching. Okay. So let's see. Okay, the words, these are some of the objections, and you're raising them as if you were thinking about them, which I like. Allowing people to externalize their feelings onto the person who is writing the piece or writing to them is a great way to make them feel less guilty about feeling certain things, especially if they are guilty about feeling those objections or they don't want to voice them in some way. That's one way to allow them permission to feel and understand those objections.
I did that actually in my sales copy for this course, where I mentioned that I realized I needed a mentor because I was kind of fooling myself on being able to write copy. That was a way for the audience reading the page to go, okay, yeah, I can kind of commiserate with that, but I don't want to straight up admit that, you know, I'm not very good at copy. Just to give you an idea. I mean, it kind of always is good to look retrospectively at what you did in sales copy, for what reason. Let's see. Scared to pieces, Secret Service. So, yeah, not really. I mean, after the Rush Hour 2 thing especially, but, you know, just, I think Rush Hour 2 was less about the reality of the counterfeit money and more about the problems it caused because people were trying to spend the money even though it was clearly not real. So it wasn't necessarily an issue with the type of counterfeit money. It was more so like, why did you let all of these random people use this and not clean things up and, you know, clog the system with crap, that type of thing. Let's see. The mint. Color, ink, new detail. Interesting. Okay. What does mint mean? I'm curious. Mr. Robot. Teams of people. How do I tell how many? What's my word count here? All right, good job. Okay. Add to cart. Add to cart. No risk. Sizing. Cool, cool. Yeah, without going into super detail and really nailing down the specifics on this, like I said, we wouldn't. Okay, I think you went a little too cute on that one, Anthony, because I don't know what the mint is. I'm trying to find the purpose of the mint, but it was actually just meant to be cute. Does that make sense? I mean, like mint, I kind of was looking for mint as an acronym, or mint as like a rule of thumb, or a mnemonic, or a heuristic, or something like that. I think that might have been too cute. Because it confused me. Now I'm easy to confuse, but so is your prospect. Okay. Overall, Anthony, without going into a ton of detail and looking specifically at a lot of this stuff. Very well written, very well done. This is one of the better assignments we've looked at today. Good job. Yeah, I think that's the best thing I can do. Delete the subhead. This is a good example of how to tell a personal story that's interesting. I would maybe sex this story up a little bit, as in throwing in some creative licensing details that kind of make it hilarious or very hangover-ish. Just because it is involved like that and it keeps people's attention more. But overall, well done. Okay, block text. I don't think this is Devin's, and I don't believe Devin is on the call. So, one thing I remember about this, Devin, if you're watching this on the replay, I'm gonna tell you a bunch of stuff about this letter, but one thing in particular stood out to me in that you emailed me this and you were apologetic about not hitting the word count, 1,200 words here, and you said it was really short, but you gave me such a long explanation of why the word count wasn't at the level that it should be, that I feel like you could have spent more time writing the letter than writing the excuse for it not being as long as it should be. I'm saying that with love, but when you're watching this recording, excuses, no matter how legitimate, are irrelevant if you don't meet the requirements, right? I understand that people go through stuff. There's reasons why you miss assignments. There's reasons why assignments aren't turned in right or at the right level or anything like that. But at the end of the day, excuses are irrelevant.
So either own the fact that it was too short and don't give me excuses for it, or in spite of those excuses, deliver what was required. Again, said with love, but that's my advice on that particular piece. Now let's go over the sales piece. Attention indie filmmakers, I confess I stole my film award, and how to make your film look like $1 million on a shoestring budget. Okay, these are two separate headlines that compete with one another. Unless they are supposed to be two separate headlines, and there's just really no separation. So, attention indie filmmakers, I confess I stole my film award. You don't need attention indie filmmakers if you're using this as an initial, wow, what just happened? If you're using this as an initial headline. Reason being, I confess I stole my film award, or just I stole my film award, is going to immediately capture the attention of your target market automatically and reads more like an interesting story that they might want to pay attention to, given the fact that they are interested in getting film awards themselves. So this is your headline if you want to go with that angle, and you don't need any of this in order to accomplish the same goal, which means this would be, because right now it takes me until the end to get to this, so I would simply delete the beginning. This headline, how to make your film look like $1 million on a shoestring budget, is a how-to type post. And if you don't go into the actual how-to in the sales letter, then they're going to feel gypped and they're going to feel like they wasted their time, unless you have some sort of amazingly compelling copy that lets them forget. Same problem that I brought up earlier in this call with John Benson, where he goldfished everyone. So that's something you really want to pay attention to. If you're promising something in the headline and you don't deliver on the promise, then you're really hurting your chances to capture the majority of the sales that are capturable. So that's what I have to say about the headlines. I'll start innocently enough. Who thought it? Bizarre, great props. Okay, let's see. Better thought of looking like a cheap high school stage production. Yeah, okay. Photocopy different bills. Interesting. It's totally illegal. 20 years in state prison. I don't get a lot of these references. And that's exactly what you don't want them to do. You're writing this in the first person, but I'm not convinced that it's a real person. That's the issue overall with this lead. I'm not convinced that this person talking to me is really telling a story that is relevant to stealing their film award, or in some way focused on teaching me how to make $1 million on a shoestring budget. So with that said, you never actually bring up this stolen award again. So you goldfish me on both of these headlines. If you're going to write a story lead with a story headline about how you stole your film award, it needs to be similar to what Anthony just wrote about how, you know, the prop money caused a riot. That's a story that you want to tell that is compelling and interesting. If you're going to write a headline that teaches me how to make my film look like $1 million on a shoestring budget, then it needs to be a how-to, but the how-to is written in such a way that makes me think that prop money, having the solid prop money, is a really good, cost-effective way to make my film look better. That's the pitch, essentially. Very, very different angles for both of these things, but I don't feel like the copy matches the headline in any way, shape, or form on either of the headlines. And I feel like I don't believe that it's really, you know, you or the author or the, you know, the client you're writing for in this particular case. And, you know, obviously you bring in all the important stuff like the shows, social proof, things like that. But I just don't really, you're telling this as if you're having the experience as the writer of experiencing this type of prop money, but it just doesn't feel authentic and it doesn't feel specific enough for me. So I would immediately not read this stuff, right? Also, I want to do something here. I can't tell how many, maybe, can I do capital letters? I wish I could do capital letters or just individual things. I'm terrible at using these things, but all of these little, maybe I can do this. Okay, here we go. That works. This is how many times you use the word I in a sales letter. And it missed that one. It missed a couple of them, I'm sure, because I put a space around both edges. So missed the ones at the end of sentences and the beginning of sentences. This is too many I's. And writing sales copy is about the client, not yourself. When Anthony wrote here, there are 8 of them, and one of them is in the FAQ. Okay, yeah, and that's deleted. That's when I got way more than I ever bargained for. Spend the night in jail. And he's telling a story about himself, but he doesn't use I as much. So that's the difference. Come on now. There we go. Focus on the client, focus on telling a story if it feels like an authentic story, and if you're going to teach me something, then make sure you actually teach the thing that you promise. Also, block text. Don't write in block text. It's impossible to read for most people, especially for millennial and Gen X audiences. That is the major feedback I have for this letter. Actors always think I'm giving them real money. Whose is this? Who wrote this? Are you on here? This might be Daryl's? Yeah, okay. Cool, Daryl. Headline, actors always think I'm giving them real money. Let's see. I think you did the same thing where you kind of hyped the crap out of this thing. You've always been in search of something almost forbidden. You're in pursuit of a dream. Yeah, I think you're hyping a little too much for a solution-aware audience. First things first. Next, the actors always think I'm giving them real money. Is not, it doesn't really fit any of the criteria that I would have for a headline for this type of piece. It isn't necessarily compelling me to read further, other than the ... at the end. It's not quite interesting enough, I think. Something similar, like the actor that spit on my face because he thought I gave him real money, might be an interesting story to read. Or something like that. Or that time the cops knocked on my door because an actor tried to spend fake money. Or something like that is compelling, but I don't think as is it's intriguing enough for me to go for. But I see your point. I see what you're trying to go for. It's just not there. Let's see. As an indie filmmaker, you've continuously taken great care to look out for the moment when everything comes together. Again, pulling away 9 to 5, pay the bills. You're going for a commiseration lead, like a lot of these guys were, and I don't believe that it's hitting home. Anytime we're talking about the same concept here, where you're kind of declaring that they believe a certain thing, and if they don't believe that thing or feel that way, then they are going to leave this. Also, it sounds a little hypey and poetic. So I don't think that this lead accomplishes the job of getting you to continue to read down the lane here. I would completely work this first page and up until this point here. I would completely rework this. All right. Yeah, all the way down here. So if you're talking about a dream or a lifestyle or something that is appealing to them like that, then you're actually speaking to a level 4 or level 5 awareness type prospect. These are the people who maybe don't even consider themselves independent filmmakers. Maybe they're just enthusiasts or hobbyists or people who've subscribed to the magazines or are on the forums. They're not quite at that level of dedication to where they are going to have problems filming things. And they're either sitting on a desire that is not crystallized, or they're sitting as a demographically accurate person, as in, you know, they interact with this thing and have a casual interest, but they're not really at that point of taking any action further yet. That is your level of awareness that you're speaking to if you're talking to some sort of dream or lifestyle. That is the type of person that, to use an example in other industries, could be like the person who buys their very first info product online about how to make money online and really, you know, thinks about the dream of working on the beach and buying into this making money concept. And they're the ones who have this dream or have this, you know, general desire of some sort, but they haven't really gone far enough to have problems yet, which is, you know, they're not looking for solutions like what's the best email autoresponder, what's the best webinar software, what's, you know, how do I fix this with PayPal? Those are problem type things that are practitioner problems, not dreamer problems. And when you talk about dreams, you're moving up the awareness scale. And in this particular assignment, we needed to focus on the solution aware people. And I think that is the difference between these things here. Does that make sense, Daryl? Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. Have each and every scene look as real as possible. Making a scene so real it becomes a part of your audience. For a moment in time. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it kind of, the whole tone carries through the entire piece here. And so if you're going to shift the tone, you got to rewrite the whole thing. We get down here, 20 years of experience is a great way to provide proof, social proof, things like that. Number one, customers include, all that type of stuff. But in order to get to this point and believe they're the best, they have to buy into the story in the beginning. So it's talking about the specific offers, things like that. So we're not going to go too deep. These are all solid. If you want to, you know, like talking about the offer, talking about the price, talking about the benefits and, you know, all these different testimonials and things like that, all that's solid, but they have to buy into it in these first 2, 3, 4 pages. Does that make sense, Daryl? Let me know. Let me know. Okay, cool. So that's the feedback I have on this piece. If you want to like chat in the group about, you know, back and forth messaging or on the Q&A calls or something to try and nail down some better messaging ideas based on the levels of awareness, we can totally do that because it is something that you have to practice. It's something that you have to understand when you're going for it in the first place. So we can do that. It's one of the things that takes a minute to pick up. Let us go over Jenny's. Cool. Jenny's, you online? Cool. Thanks for being here the whole time, guys. You guys have been here for 2 hours now, and I really appreciate your attention and your time. I hope this is super valuable for every single person who's listening, everybody who's listening on the recording. Thank you. You're dedicating a lot of time and energy and effort to this mentorship, and I can't ask for anything more than that. So thank you so much for your attention. All right, let's launch into this one. Jenny, and then we've got one more, and I forgot whose that is, but we got to go down there. So it's Deb. No, we've already done Deborah's. I don't know whose that is. We'll have to figure it out. Okay. So, attention indie filmmakers. How to tell if the prop money you use for your dream film is unquestionably legal while giving you the highest quality shoots you desire. Okay, this is actually a good example of a solid level 2 awareness headline. How to tell if the prop money you use for your dream film is unquestionably legal while giving you the highest quality shoots you desire. One thing I would do is I'd delete this, I'd delete dream, and because maybe it is their dream film, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and you don't want to give them that out right in your headline. How to tell if the prop money you use for your film is unquestionably legal. So I might do this as well, unbold. How to tell if the prop money you use in your film is unquestionably legal while giving you the highest quality shoot you desire. Something like that, which draws attention to the things you want to draw attention to in the headline. So how to tell if the prop money you use for your film or in your film is unquestionably legal while giving you the highest quality you desire. I think that would be a more articulate version of the headline that you're going for, which is a very direct, solution-oriented headline for this awareness level. And I think that that's solid. If I'm looking for prop money, or if I'm looking for a provider of prop money, given the level of awareness here, then the unquestionably legal thing is going to capture my attention, and obviously highest quality for the shoots that I'm going to plan is relevant to me. So both of those things matter, especially on a budget, that sort of thing. So let's go into the lead. You may be thinking about possibly getting some prop money. I think you may be thinking about possibly getting some prop money printed. I think you have put in a ton of passive voice in here that is unnecessary. If you're, I mean, this entire thing can be, if you're looking for quality prop money for a scene in your next film. If you're looking for quality prop money for a scene in your next film and wondering if it's a good idea to DIY or find a supplier on the cheap, stop. Something like that. So you notice how this is pulling me down the page. How to tell if the prop money you use for your film is unquestionably legal while giving you the highest quality shoots you desire. That is going to capture my attention and interest and compel me to read further. My attention, because unquestionably legal is something that matters to me. Interest, because legality and prop money and the things that I'm looking for in the solution are there. And compelling me to read, because I need to read more because I have to figure out how to tell if the prop money is there, or how to tell if the prop money is legal. And then the next line is, if you're looking for quality prop money for a scene in your next film, which yes I am, that's why I'm reading, and wondering if it's a good idea to DIY or find a supplier on the cheap, which is that's something I'm definitely thinking about if I'm on the budget. If I'm on a budget, stop. And that's going to capture my attention, and I'm going to keep reading because I want to figure out what I'm going to do that is going to put me at risk, put my team at risk, or my film at risk. And it's not scary enough yet that I bail, but it's interesting enough and intriguing enough for me to continue reading. Does that make sense, Jenny? Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to try to pull people down the page using this same idea, right? Your how-to headline is obviously going to teach them something. And so far we've told them that there is a risk to them that they need to continue reading in order to find out what it is and how to fix it. Let's see. I would delete this completely. Yes, budget is a big consideration, but again, passive voice. If one thing I notice is that if you are not confident in your ability to write, you use a ton of hedging and passive voice. Not just you, Jenny, but people in general. If you're not confident in what you're writing, it will bleed into your writing. So yes, budget is a big consideration, but I'd be proceeding with caution for your own safety when it comes to using prop money in your production. You don't want to land yourself in hot water by using something illegal without knowing you're taking the risk, or worse, cost yourself. Like all this kind of stuff. It's a little hedgy. It's a little bit passive, and we've already deleted a lot of that. But you want to be confident and articulate in the point you're trying to make, which is right now, the person is searching for a solution and you've just raised a risk in their mind of getting the wrong product and being persecuted for it, or getting in trouble for it, or losing money for it, something like that. That's what you're doing with this piece, is what I'm assuming. Now, I'm not going to keep rewriting this because, again, it's just to talk about the main points. But the point being, if you sell it in your headline, you have to be forceful with it in your lead, or you have to be confident with it in your lead at the very least. Don't write in passive voice, or don't hedge by saying you might, you maybe, you kinda, you wanna, that type of thing. All right, have you heard about the Rush Hour 2 incident? This is allowing them to say yes or no and continue reading. I like questions. Yep. Yep. Yeah, telling the story. So if you can tell a story that is interesting to them based on the relevance of your headline and your lead, and it's pulled me through all the way to the bottom of your page, you're winning. So that's well done. Yep. What you need to know to avoid trouble. Cool. Cool. All right. Actually, Jenny, aside from the passive voice and a lot of the stuff we just talked about and being a little bit more confident and specific in what you're saying, this is a well-written piece because you've promised something in your headline, you've carried through, you've told a story in order to capture their attention, to pull them down and kind of give context to the situation. You've actually answered their question, what do you need to know to avoid trouble? And then by the time you're done explaining how to avoid trouble, you go down here and give them a solution after you've just kind of solved their problem. So I actually think that this is extremely well written and a solid offer for a level 2 awareness audience. We just need to work on the lead and the headline to make it more compelling so people pull their way down the page. Oh, and giving them a deal is also a great way. We'll go into offers and irresistible offers and guarantees and things like that later on in the course, because those are some of the best ways to increase your conversions. But right now, headlines and leads are what I really want to focus on. But so far, this is extremely well done. Good job, Jenny. I'm not going to go through this with a fine-tooth comb, no. Don't get too excited. But seriously, though, guys, the reason I like this is because it's different from what a lot of these letters have done, because it's speaking to a level 2 audience. They are solution aware. They're actively looking for a solution to their problem. They're aware of other solutions. They've thought about other solutions. And at this point, they need a reason to buy, or they have certain objections, or something's going on in their mind to stall them, because otherwise they would have already bought. So when you deal with that reality of the person that you're speaking to, then you start to realize that there are certain conversations going on in their head, or certain things that will pique their curiosity. This is one of them. By telling them that there is a risk with moving forward with one of the solutions that they have previously considered, that is going to stop them in their tracks and get them to read, because humans inherently hate risk and have a lot of fear associated with things that are unknown. So by stopping them in their tracks with the risk without scaring them away from doing the thing in the first place is this fine balance. And by doing that, talking about a story, teaching how to avoid it, and then providing an immediate solution to their problem that honestly you kind of created for them using the headline, that is one way to compel people to take action with urgency. And then once you get down to the offer, you're offering reasons to go now, which is, you're not going to find a better provider. We're one of the cheaper ones, and we've got a deal for you right now, limited time special offer, that type of thing. So this is well executed. Good job, Jenny. All right, last one. No, this isn't the last one. We were done. Jenny was the last one. That's what I thought. Okay, cool. So we've done Richards, Vikesh's, Giles, Yelena, Brian, Charlotte, Anthony, Devin, Daryl, Jenny, Deborah, and Jerome, or Jeremy. Again, please, let me know if I'm mispronouncing it. I'm so sorry if I am. Edie, I don't know if you're on the call, Edie. I know it's really late. So probably not. Edie is going to turn hers in later. And I do not have one from Johnny or Matthew and Daniel Sanchez. So with that said, this is the end of the very first hot seat. We've been going for 2 hours and 7 minutes. No, 6 minutes. 4:04. Mathing. Someone math for me real quick. 7 minutes. Yeah, I was right. 2 hours and 7 minutes. This is the order that we went in. And I'm going to try and put this into the recording as well. I believe we went Richard, Vikesh, Giles, Deborah, Yelena, Brian, Charlotte, Anthony, Devin, Daryl, Jenny, and Jerome was first. So I'm going to try to put that up in right order, but if not, just hop around and I'll try and make this easier for people to go find their stuff. But does anybody have any questions? Brian is asking, is it possible to get access to the ones you liked, i.e. Debbie's, Anthony's, and Jenny's, for our reference? That is up to the individual. So I honestly can't remember which ones I said good things about, which ones I had improvements about, and all that kind of stuff. So if I gave a particular amount of praise or a good insight on one of them, and that person is willing to share their piece, then that person, please take the prerogative to share it in the group with the specific stuff that I talked about. That way I don't have to comb back through this and figure it all out. But if you want to, it's completely up to you. If you do it, please link it in the group and share the reasons why. Share the reasons why that I said it was effective. Again, all of these things are a big passover. I'm not getting into the details, I'm not getting into the weeds, and I'm not super specific on the big four because although I'm familiar with the target market, I haven't actually done the research myself for these particular pieces, which means that everything I say, take with a grain of salt, but hopefully the meta concepts from all these assignments have helped you understand the different possibilities for every sales piece that we wrote. Does anyone have any last-minute questions on anything that I just talked about, anything that popped up in your mind, or anything about the existing assignment that's going to be due not this Friday, but next Friday, and would want to ask about right now? Other than that, we'll end the call. Sorry. No questions? Oh, something. Okay, excellent. All right, guys, thank you for everyone who was here the whole time. People jumping in and out because they have work. I know we're all international. 2 hours is a long time for anyone. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to be doing these bi-monthly. So the next hot seat is not going to be next week. It's going to be the week following because you're going to turn your assignments in on Friday of next week, and then we will go over those assignments the week afterward. So without further ado, that was the very first hot seat. Glad you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys for being here. People listening to the replay at 2 or 3 times speed, I would want to do the same thing. Have a great night. Thank you for your attention and time, and I will see you in the Facebook group and on next week's Q&A call. Having a good one, guys. Bye.